and welcome into the Eric Zane Show podcast, a daily show where I discuss news, nonsense, and my personal adventures. I already feel like I have to clear my throat. Hang on. Oh my gosh. I already feel back to normal. But not really. Thank you so much for being here, taking care of business. This is always weird when you have a show like this. So close to a, very, very sad moment. You still have to kind of like do your business part of it. So, there's no good way to do it. You just kind of like, all right, hey, let's, oh my God. Anyway, this show originates in the world famous Impact Power Sports Studio. You can find them at impactpowersportsmi.com for anything like a snowmobile, motorcycle, UTV, ATV, e-bike, golf cart, Yamaha golf carts. They have it all. Anything with a fun, with a motor that is fun. You can find it at Impact Power Sports online at impactpowersportsmi.com. And then their actual place of business is in Rockford, Michigan. Drop in and say hi. The popcorn is free. Okay. I'm reasonably certain that, I do a lot of the things that I do on here that are like game time decisions. And I kind of, being that, in case you haven't heard, the dad has passed. I think I'm just going to keep things to top of mind concerning this scenario today. And your discussions on the chat, I'll be looking to that. So by all means, if you have something to add, do it. Like a memory that you may have recalled that I shared with you, like EZ, the time you told the story of that is going to power this show. Because, I mean, I could honestly, whether passing away or not, if I were talking about my dad and the shenanigans that have taken place over the years, good, bad, and the ugly, we could fill days of shows. So I think that's kind of the direction how it's going to go. I don't have any notes really of things that I want to talk about. It wouldn't be right if I hey, let's talk about the war. Which I don't know. Is this officially a war? Iran's been asking for it for decades, okay? I feel like we still owe those bastards payback for taking our guys hostage in like the late 70s, early 80s. Stand by. Tyler says, how about the TV story? No, I don't want to tell this TV story because it involves Kenny, and I don't want to talk about fucking Kenny. Maureen says Congress has to declare war. POTUS cannot. Alan goes with someone else sent this along, and it's fantastic. I had Dad on the air back in the day on the old radio show. And I said, Dad, which one of your sons is your favorite? And he said, quote, actually, I didn't like any of you. Oh, my God. Fantastic. Rebecca says, let's all make our nominations for the island. Dad, as he was going through dementia, would constantly on Dear Meathead talk about what he would like to do with people who are misbehaving. I want to put him on an island. And then he would constantly tell that story again like it was the first time. He would forget that he's told us that story. I have a nomination to talk about him speaking devil. I have a nomination for him to talk about the Like a Son story. Yep, that's going to make it. Stacy Bobasi is here, and I know that Blue State Rob mentioned this, and I wouldn't have thought about it had Rob not mentioned it and Stacy Bobasi not mentioning if she hadn't mentioned it here. On Dear Meathead, Dad revealing that like he would shovel the driveway. And then when he would do that, he would take the piles of snow, which were no longer on the driveway, and he would then take the snow and like spread it out so that it would melt faster, which, yes, it would. And I'm like, well, Dad, it seems like you're doing way too much work. Why do you have? So basically, if it would snow like 6 inches where he lives, everybody would clear off their driveway. And my dad would do that too, but he would then melt the snow. So if you got to like a warm day, like it was like 45, 50, like, late winter, early spring, everybody else still has snow piled up. Dad's then out in the yard scattering the snow so that it would melt faster. Man Bun Chris says, my neighbor does that. Reminds me of Meathead. Man Bun Chris also adds, when I started coaching, I used to email questions about coaching, and he'd always answer on Dear Meathead. My favorite was when he told the story about the safety pin he would use. Okay, so he's told the story to everybody in the family. And in fact, I didn't know. I had only heard about it on this show, but he had told other family members when Dad used to play soccer in the old country, he'd be running around and he'd have a safety pin in his hand. And so if someone's got the ball, he'd run up to him, and then, you're always making contact in soccer. He would stab them with that pin, and they'd be like, oh, and then he'd take the ball. Holy shit. What a maneuver. I have a nomination for the story of when he punched that guy. I'll get into that. Cole says, how about when he punched the mayor? Red Bull Brain Chris says, the time you were both drunk and needed firewood. Nick says, didn't he tell some of the family he was a fighter pilot that got shot down in war? He did. And that was recent. I couldn't really go up to him and ask him about it because, this is probably last year that I found out about it. And, family members are like, oh, man, yeah, but you know what? He's a war hero. And I'm like, what's up? Oh, yeah. It got shot. I go, he did. Tell me more. Well, yeah, he told us that he was in the war. Now, I don't know what war. He actually told my beloved family members that he was flying a plane, and the plane got shot down, and he hit the ejection button, and he went flying into the air, and then the parachute got stuck in trees, and then he's hanging there, and the bad guys shot him. And that's about all I remember because I was laughing so hard. I was like, it didn't happen. Dad has never been in battle. He came to the U.S. from Iran and became an insurance salesman. And he's awesome, and we love him. But I don't know where that came from. That is a tall tale is what that is. 100%. I was more like, what? How could you have believed that? What the? Huh? Anyway, I don't want to get bogged down by that. Cole says maybe he watched the film Behind Enemy Lines the day before. Man Bun Chris says his story about only being able to say the words hot dog. Yes, that's true. When he got to the U.S., hot dog and like Coca-Cola or something like that. You might be like, easy, how are you handling it? Well, let me go over this part with you because let me back up since we last spoke. So last week I got the news that he was delirious. And then I heard on Thursday, hey, rally the troops and get over here. And so I knew that was it. So, you know, my dad was there bedside and he could still, I mean, his mattress was like on the floor. He had a separate bed just for comfort. You know, I don't want to get too sad here and talking about Dad. It's not that type of podcast, but I know a lot of people care about him, and I can't, my family and I can't say enough about all the support. Appreciate it. But it honestly couldn't have been a better scenario. We're very fortunate. I'm fortunate that my dad's fortunate. We're all fortunate that the arrangement for the past 6 months has been where my beloved sister/stepsister and her husband Jim live right next door. They're the first responders. They're always there, you know. I really, you know, I always loved them, but now it's like, to me, it's sainthood level. It's that wonderful. It's just so great. I live you know, I have to drive across the state to be there with them. And my so-called step family, I even hate to say that because this is my family. All right, they are the absolute best. I care so much about them, and in addition to my biological family, who I'm also very close to, it's just more family, you know. I never felt like when my dad, you know, got remarried, and Joanne's, you know, you're blending the families. I never ever once felt like, you know, I didn't belong. It's always been just great, and I care very much for them, even more so now. So, you know, everybody's worked hard to try to keep them comfortable, trying to, as Joanne was convalescing after her knee injury. And the question has rolled in, how is she holding up? You know, I would say normal. And I think that is good. But, you know, we have that all hands on deck moment. And so we all got together, and we were all with Dad for the next several days as this process played out. And the hospice nurse said, yes, he is, sounds weird, but he is actively dying. So this is what you can expect. The only thing that is not for certain is when this takes place. But he's checking all the boxes. So their job, hospice home care, is to keep him comfortable. So a lot of that involves them giving instructions, and we have to keep him comfortable. So Pooh Bear and I are there, and my sister/stepsister, Elizabeth, the middle girl of the three. You got Sue, Elizabeth, and Nikki. And Sue and Jim had our, you know, once Elizabeth and I were there, it's like, you go, you sleep, and we'll handle it. And so every 4 hours we have to get up and give Dad morphine and another medicine for anxiety, and just to keep him comfortable. So, and it's by mouth. So Elizabeth would sit him up, and I'd give him the medicine. And so Dad was able to converse a little bit on Thursday, and people were coming and going. It was an incredibly poignant moment with Pastor Kurt, who is the lead pastor of the church that Dad was part of. But yeah, I'm just, I don't know, man. It was just fucking great. I hate to say that somebody dying was great, but I mean, just a lot of things were there that I was thankful for. And I'm thankful for all of you for the kind words that you've said. I'm extremely walled off right now, if you're wondering why I'm not blubbering like an idiot. That actually hasn't been the case. I mean, Thursday was terrible. Friday was terrible. Saturday was terrible. And Dad died on Sunday. He died in the night. You know how, like, you hear about how folks who are dying, that they have the ability to hang on. And typically the idea there is that folks think that if a person is dying, they don't want to, like, die in front of someone. I think that may have been the case. And we actually had a meeting in the family. We're like, look, if you go in there to be with them, be quiet. Okay? And that's what Black Belt Nick says. He says, my dad did it to my mom. The second she went to the bathroom, he died. I think there's something to that. Maureen says, sometimes it's okay to tell them it's okay to go. Oh, I said, Dad, you got to go, man. It's time. Get to the light. Go to the light. Red Wings are on. Goal. So, Joanne had been sleeping in his room. So Elizabeth and I will go in there, give him medicine. She's like, how's it going? Oh, we're fine. And then we go back to bed. Alarm goes off 4 hours later, do it again. On the night that he died, Joanne chose to sleep in a different room. So who knows? But I got up at 12:45 to administer medicine on what was Sunday morning. And Nikki had gotten up. She goes, I got it, Eric. So Nikki and Elizabeth did it. And I go, okay, all right. Yeah. So then at about that point, my sisters noticed that Dad, something wasn't right, and he seemed uncomfortable, So the hospice folks said, you can give him more morphine. We want to keep this man comfortable. So if you got to give him morphine, by all means, give him more morphine. So they had done that. They had given him one or two more doses of that. And then sometime a little later on, Nikki had gotten up, and she noticed a dramatic turn. And, so that was that. So we all got up. Nikki, it was crazy because I had fallen back asleep, and then she's waking me up. She goes, hey, it's time. So his passing, the way he passed with everyone around him, and he seemed as comfortable as he could be, was really a godsend. I can't imagine. I feel so bad and pray for those who, have had more to endure. That's very, very difficult. So I feel for all of you who've had that. And, when everybody's coming out of the woodwork telling you offering words of support and encouragement. It, it just puts it all into perspective in a particular way that it's very important that, from my standpoint, I don't know, I just feel like sometimes I get too caught up in all the busy work of life than to support people who are also going through something like that. Because honestly, when I look at all the, people commenting and the nice things that you say, it just helped. It really, even just one message, just a, hey, my condolences, I'm thinking about you. It adds up, and it really meant a lot. So Joanne is hanging in there. I know a lot of you are very, very concerned about that, and we got her. We've got her, and she'll be well taken care of. John Midgley is here, the psycho magician, and he says, we love your family. John, do you mind if I read your email? It was a tremendous email. It was really awesome. Maureen says, Alan says, my grandpa did the same thing. Maureen, we all went in individually and told him it was okay to go. And Maureen says, yeah, Linda told my dad it was okay to go. We'd be okay. And Mom was waiting for him in heaven. One of my brothers told our older brother it was okay to go. We'd take care of his wife and family. So I'm there. I'm bedside with Dad. And I go, Dad, it's okay to go. But you're going to have to stay away from your ex-wives. There are 2 ex-wives up there. One of them is my mother, and one of them is Norman's mother. They might throw you out of heaven. If they might conspire against you to beat your ass up there. So it might be, maybe like a buffer between you and them. I don't know if you just get up there and go, hey, maybe sneak in through the back door. Be a little bit subtle in that regard. I think that may be your best approach. Also, knowing you, being the charmer that you are, don't go up there and be all charming with those women. Those are no longer your wives, and you still got a wife here. And if she gets up there and she sees you being a little bit too chummy, she might want to beat your ass too. So what I'm suggesting is all about longevity. Once you get over to the area that's known as the Pearly Gates, I think that's a good thing. And then I said, by the way, Dad, your fingers are waiting for you. Poor guy hacked off his fingers years ago. Well, one of them. The other one's just slightly damaged. The other one is completely missing half of it. All right. Nick says, the day my dad died, I was working. About 3 p.m., I heard a knock on my desk like he would do. I took down the time. I heard a knock on my desk like he would do. So I guess he would walk up and knock on it. I took down the time. My mom called later to tell me he had passed. And I asked what time. It was within minutes of the time I heard the knocking. Oh, my gosh. Nick says, I still swear it was him saying goodbye. I will be here tomorrow as well. But I will not be here on Friday. I started writing down some thoughts about my dad after he died because I envisioned an opportunity to say something about Dad. But little did I know it will be much more profound and formal as I will be speaking, but Pooh Bear wrote, she goes, hey, were you planning on saying a few things on, about your dad? And I said, yes. And she said, good, because you're speaking and you are the only person that's speaking. And I'm like, what the? I thought that was interesting. I don't know why no one else is speaking, because to me, there's plenty of people that could speak. But so now I'm writing and coming up with how I'll word it. And I'll tell you this right now. I haven't cried in a couple of days. And I don't know what it is, but there's one particular moment that continues to get me. And I don't even want to talk about it with you right now. I wrote about it. And if you were to go to the post on Facebook with all the pictures of, because I actually posted pictures of Dad on his deathbed. And I realize some people might be like, oh, man, I don't know, that's a little much. You're supposed to just show pictures of him smiling, when he's not dying. I'm like, nah, I really wanted to show and illustrate with you Dad at this moment with everyone at his side, because I frankly thought it was beautiful. And Dad has shared so much with you, and we've shared so much with each other with Dad. I know that you would want to see that, to know that he's taken care of. And he was. And I'm sure it was touching. But in that post, there is a moment when I describe Dad's interaction with Pastor Kurt, who's an absolute warrior. I guess I'll just say it. He had been under the weather and ill, like very ill. And my man got released from the hospital. And he went from the hospital, not home, to my dad's bedside. And I love him for that. I love this guy. And part of it has to do with Dad was the guy who at church, like the pastor, this is a Assembly of God church. It's a Pentecostal church. And so a lot of the times, as I understand it at these churches, there'll be particular moments when, if anybody is there who might be there, but they haven't said, Jesus is my Lord and Savior, where they'll invite you down to come to the altar. And then you say, I have accepted Jesus. I'm asking for salvation. And then eventually you get baptized, become a member of the church. Well, Dad did that. And so typically they'll have the pastor will speak, and it'll be a message about that exact thing. But on this particular day that Dad was there, and I had not heard this, and I heard it from different mouths, but Dad was there, and remember that scene in the Blues Brothers when, Jake, yes, I have seen the light. Dun, 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 dun. It was like that. Dad is sitting there, and all of a sudden, he stands up, and, he goes running to the front, and he's the first one there, and he's sobbing, and there's not a dry eye in the house. And I'm just glad that happened. I'm glad that happened to my dad, because I think he needed that. And I guess I'll just say it. I'm fine. I'm pretty walled off right now. Dad said we had some great adventures. Like, he was laying in bed, and he said to Kurt, we had some, and he said it. It was tough for him to say it, but he said it. And Pastor Kurt said, yeah, maybe, yeah, we did, but the best adventure was when you ran up to the aisle. And that was great. And then he said this comment. He goes, it was like trying to corral a wild Mustang. And I thought, what a cool-ass thing to say. Trying to corral a wild Mustang. Because that couldn't be more apt about my dad as a wild Mustang. See story of when he punched then Councilman Jim Fouts in the face. I think my dad may have invented road rage. Not kidding you. Like, I don't think it existed prior to my dad. And it was always a crapshoot if he's driving, whether or not somebody was going to piss him off. Because he got very good at rolling down the window and driving while hanging out of the vehicle and keeping the car on the road and shaking a fist at people. Legendary. And I was like, oh, God. Is this what I'm supposed to do? Bread Bull Brain Chris says that quote got to me without even knowing the stories behind it. So the Wild Mustang is driving, and the Wild Mustang should not have been driving because the Wild Mustang drank from the river of whatever, Budweiser. He's driving around the city of Warren. By the way, Jim Fouts, who's still around today, he's no longer the mayor of Warren. But in my opinion, one of the most corrupt mayors on the planet. He's a horrible human being. Now, for this story, I had been told that Dad punched through his window. But I now have confirmation that he did not punch through the window. It made for a great story, but I'm trying to keep this above board with the facts. So, Dad's driving, and it just so happens there's a vehicle next to him. In the vehicle is Jim Fouts, who at the time was not the mayor, but he was a councilman. This is in the 90s, I think. I don't know when it was. It's remarkable the break that my dad got here. But Fouts, who supposedly was bombed as well, so you got two idiots driving down the road. Fouts is coming into Dad's lane. Dad's like, what the hell is this guy doing? So my dad, he's like, I'm going to get over. I don't want him to hit my truck. So my dad pulls into he's driving now in the center line, the turn lane. And now that dummy Fouts is coming into that lane. So as this is unfolding, Dad is able to communicate with the guy. And the guy pulls over. So Dad pulls over. Now, they're already raging at each other. But Fouts, your window. Now, I don't know why this idiot rolled down his window, because the second there was enough room for a fist, my dad punched that guy right in the fucking face. This guy, he doesn't get out. He realizes he's in trouble, and he drives away. And my dad follows him. Well, he drove into the parking lot of the police station. Fouts drove to the police station. And my dad followed him. So now you got two drunk morons are there. And the next thing you know, the cops are coming out and they're like, what's going on here? There's more yelling and screaming. They can see something's happening. They come out. Dad does not know that this is a councilman. Cops know it's a councilman. And obviously, they don't know my dad. Next thing you know, they're both inside. Now, my dad was never arrested. He was never in custody. He was never charged with anything. From what I can gather, the cops realized that they had an issue because the councilman is shit-faced drunk and just got into a road rage incident. So, they reach out to Joanne. Joanne drives over there, and they're sitting there waiting. And then a cop comes out and says, okay, here's what's up. You're free to go. Councilman Fouts is not going to press charges. And they're like, what the? That's the first time they realized that this was somebody who's kind of important. So Joanne said, all right, let's go. And then the cop said he has to leave his truck here. He cannot drive. And then she said, okay. And then he said, okay. And they walked out, and Joanne got in her car, and Dad got in his truck, and then they left. End of story. I think it actually went, the car was parked in a different location, like around the corner, still in the parking lot of the police station. But so Joanne is kind of like in a different area by the front door. Dad gets in her vehicle, and he goes, make a right. Make a right. And she's like, what? I don't, that's not how I get out. That's where my truck is. You're not supposed to drive. He just, shut up. I'm getting in the truck. Gets in the truck, drives away. My God. I think it's a charmed life that he I mean, honestly, he made it to nearly 92. Man Bun Chris says, you got your breaks in life like he did, LOL. Like the pennies in the mouth. I don't know how you guys got out of your shenanigans, LOL. Ugh. Nick in Houston, Texas says, if both drivers are hammered, it's not a crime. They cancel each other out. All right. Let's see. I wrote down some notes based on what you've said, and I see it says spoke devil. I know that. Like a son. I know what that is. Punch a guy. I know that story. And then for one of you, I wrote the word firewood. I mean, I don't remember why I wrote that. I don't know what that. Do any of you remember what that could have been? One of you said something that triggered it, and I wrote it down, but now I don't remember what my trigger meant. Does that make sense? Oh, okay, now I got it. Thank you, Chris. I have to be a little careful with what I share in the eulogy about Dad because I don't want to make him look bad. You know, I might share stories here, but you know, you have a mixed crowd. I have to take that into consideration. So what I will talk about, I said to Pooh Bear, she goes, all right, so are you okay to speak? And I go, what? I go, I was born for this. She goes, what are you going to do? I go, I'm not telling you. I am going to, I will make everybody cry. I can guarantee that. And I'm going to make them laugh so hard they might vomit. That I can promise you. There is no better person on the planet more suited for this task than me. It can only be me. And, you know, it's serious because in a lot of times when I speak, I don't have notes. I've maybe come up with a few things in my head, and then I just remember what I want to talk about, and then like this show. I mean, I don't have any notes when I do this, particularly on a day like today. But for this one, I actually am going to write it word for word like I'm speaking it here, and then I might deviate to some degree. Phil Cronin is here. He says, goddamn right, buddy. Here's my right-hand man with the Grand Rapids Gold. And then he makes a reference to something that went on yesterday. At the basketball game, which, by the way, was a wonderful respite, as is this show, from the very serious elements that are happening in my life right now, and all of our lives. The Gold are taking on a team from D.C., and they're called the Capital City Go-Go. And it is, in fact, the dumbest name for a sports franchise that has ever existed. I'm not sure why, but I think I read somewhere that they're known as the Go-Go because I guess in the history of the culture of the D.C. area, something as a go-go dancer or a go-go bar was invented in D.C. Now, I may have just made that up off the top of my head, or I may have heard it in a dream. I'm not sure. But one thing I think we can all agree on is it's shit. Phil says it's something like that. It's close, I think. So, being that the team is known as they're known as the Go-Go, there's a couple opportunities for various subtle, but if you're paying any amount of attention, moments. I know the team hears this shit, the other team, but like there's the ball's out of bounds and the capital city is going to get the ball. I'd say something like go-go gadget ball or go-go gadget foul on number. Then that morphed into, as Nick writes, and we use this one, wake me up before you go-go ball. Let's go-go. Go Go-Gurt ball. There's a product called Go-Gurt, which I guess is portable yogurt. Go Go-Gurt ball. So we're doing that like the whole game. Good news. The Gold and the Go-Go. Do I say Go-Go's or Go-Go? I think it's just Go-Go. The Gold and the Go-Go play tomorrow. So more of that. Hockey tonight. Gold basketball tomorrow. Friday funeral. Saturday nothing. Sunday nothing. Maybe I'll go up north. I don't know. I don't even know if I can get in there. Thank you to the psycho magician, John. Now, I don't know if he goes by mental magician anymore, but he's wonderful. John has been a supporter. I think I don't recall. He references here one earlier time that we interacted, and I do not recall that, but it stood out to him. And he wrote me a very nice email. And, you know, I got plenty of these from a lot of folks, but I just got this one yesterday, so it stands out. In fact, I was reading it last night, and I was like, God, this is a great, great email, and I'm so thankful for you. John writes this. Easy. I am so sorry for the loss of your dad. My heart really goes out to you and your whole family. He truly was an amazing person. The stories he shared, his perspective on life, and, of course, his unforgettable quote-unquote advice. All of it spoke to the kind of man he was. Stand by. There's something I've never shared with you, Eric. One of the reasons I started listening to your old show years ago, and this is going to be like complimentary about me, so this is the best part of the whole email. I started listening to the old show years ago. It wasn't just because it was funny or entertaining. It was because of your honesty. I was always struck by your willingness to admit when you'd gotten something wrong or when you felt you could have handled something better. That kind of ownership is rare. I remember writing you an email back in 2009 after one of those moments, telling you how impressed I was. You wrote back that it made your day, and I've never forgotten that. Thank you, John. Thank you for sharing your family with us over the years. Not everyone understands what you do, and some people gravitate toward the negativity, but for me, your show has always been a bright light. When I was working mobile crisis and later in the ER, seeing death and crisis regularly, I drive home heavy from the overnight shift. Flipping on your show shifted something. Instead of replaying something horrific in my mind, I'd hear, for example, Jackie yelling, "Dad, I gotta go!" And suddenly the world felt normal again, human again. That mattered more than you probably know. Your dad's impact lives on in you, in your humor, your humility, your willingness to be real. I hope you can feel how much he shaped not only your family, but in a small way, people like me who were listening. I'm thinking of you and your entire family. If you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out with love and respect, John. You know, sometimes you run into somebody like John there who can really put it into words. I mean, that was fucking amazing, John. I wish I could do that. The way that's written, it seems like you probably just whipped it out, not your penis, but the words. That was really great, John. I can't thank you enough. And, you saying that type of thing, that some of what makes him rubbed off on me, I would like to think so too. My dad was a charmer, and I didn't realize it at a young age, but my dad's nature, being, he could be in a room full of young women, and I think that they all were like, their ovaries were exploding. Like if my dad walked in and started just chatting people up like he knew them and making them feel comfortable like he did, I think he could have like gone home with all of them. I'm like, because I can't tell you how many times and I wrote about this in one of my posts, that we would encounter somebody, like let's say you're walking to the grocery store. My dad would be the guy who interact with a guy or a girl, doesn't matter who. And it was so strange because in my head, I'm like, do you know this person? And I might even say that out loud. I go, do you guys know each other? No, I just met him. He would do that. And I'm like, if you try that, most people are going to think that you're a psychopath. Not my dad, man. He had it down. Incredible level of charm, even up to his final days. Really spectacular. Can't say enough about what made up Dad. So thank you, John. Means a lot. Everything means a lot. I mean, seriously, the uplifting has been fantastic. Alan says, regarding the team, the Capital City Go-Go, he says, Go-Go blowjob. No, I don't think that's going to work. I don't think you're understanding the premise here. Go-Go has to be like, incorporated in something that exists already. You can't just say Go-Go blowjob on the mic. Maureen says, no one was a stranger to Ruben. Our dad was the same way. He could talk to anyone. All right, I want to touch on my friends over on the Segment 18 Facebook page, which is a Free Beer and Hot Wings Show fan page. After I posted an update about Dad, someone saw that, and they announced, "Hey, I think this is happening." And they worded it a little weird. It's fine. I don't care. The folks on that page they take the things that I say when I rip on their show incredibly personally. And I guess that's a testament to them, to their show. These people love them. So you have various people with, who are searching for Pokemon and getting ready for the Ren Fair, and with line beards. They also have some great souls, and I love them for that. Because Jason Van Order wrote, I just saw on another post that our constant thorn in the side of this group, Zane, lost his dad last night. Now, everything there is true. Now, I know there are going to be people, Jason writes, in here that flat out don't care. But I think we should all take a moment and put aside our differences. Like him or hate him, he is still part of why the show is what it is today, like it or hate it. Well, that's kind of true. I think it should say, though, to be accurate, like him or hate him, he is the reason why the show is what it is today. That would be an accurate statement. But I'm not going to quibble over details. This person adds, on that note, Eric Zane, if you happen to come across this post, I would like to offer my sincerest condolences and will keep you and your family in my thoughts over these next couple of days. And I'm like, that is so sweet. And I'm very appreciative of that. I would say 95% amazing comments. See, the way this works is it's boring to read out sweet entry on the comments after sweet entry. That is not entertaining. You got to go to the mean ones. And there are a few, and I love them. Okay? It's those moments that when I'm sitting there weeping and sobbing and writing a eulogy and realizing that my dad I'm going to see him, not going to be a long time till I see him again, and I will see him again, that these hate comments have brought me back, and I'm so appreciative of them. Anyway. Will writes, I hate listening to a show when I'm all caught up in the podcast. Most of the time, I can't believe how stupid and wrong he is. Sometimes he says something funny, but first it was a beloved pet, now a parent. You see, I really love how that group kicks my ass while they're telling me how sad they are for me. All right. R.I.P. Sorry for your loss, whatever. Sean, regardless if you dislike the person or not, he still lost his dad. Imagine losing someone and someone said, I don't care. Pretty disrespectful, right? Don't be that person. Keep those comments to yourself. Sorry for your loss, Mr. Zane. Sean, I appreciate you. Grant says, deep down, I know Eric is a good guy, no matter his outward actions. Sorry for your loss, Zane. It sucks losing a parent at any age. Now, I don't know what he means by that because my outward actions are godlike. I'm not God, but I do talk to him. And God told me himself he wanted me to save Jeffrey's life, and I did that. Now, if he's referring to, like, when I bust balls, look, that's the Lord's work. Do you think for 1 second that baby Jesus is in heaven going, man, that Free Beer and Hot Wings show is great? No. He hates that show because it's so poor. He has ears, baby Jesus does, and the ability to discern what is good and bad. I'm merely pointing it out and having fun in an attempt to make that show entertaining. That's what I'm telling myself. It seems to work. Matt says, I never laughed so hard as the day they played the dead hamster story. He means the day I told the dead hamster story. I don't think he's referring to the one that I had to euthanize. There's more than one hamster story, and one of them involves my dad. It'll come up at some point. Don't know if it's going to come up in the next day or so. Paula says a prayer. May Eric Zane and his beloved family and friends find comfort, peace, and compassion in this difficult time. That's so sweet. Thank you. Jesse says no one should be happy when someone loses a family member. It's true. Now, what doesn't count for that is dancing pallbearers, because we love the dancing pallbearers. Roger says, whether we like it or not, we're all in this world together. The thing that makes us great is the ability to completely disagree with each other and still support each other at the same time. Well, that's the thing. No one disagrees with me. They just don't like it. Will Monroe wrote, I feel sorry for his lose. Come on, Will. It's L-O-S-S, not L-O-S-E. You got to understand, these are not the brightest audience members. Anyway. Dan says, I listened to this guy when I started my family. Look past his shtick, and he's just a guy. Anonymous participant 368 wrote, nah, fuck that guy. There was another really bad one that I actually got secondhand embarrassment over. I don't know if I can see it. No, I can't. Anyway, somebody wrote something really bad. I don't want to say. Because if I say it, it might even make my beloved family upset, and I don't want to do that. Anyway, it's just somebody being an asshole. But there was this guy, and I was shocked at this. I was like, what is going on here? There was some guy named Brian Graff who, when that post that I was just reading to you went out on their page, Brian wrote, meh, he mocked my house fire and can kick rocks. I hope he's sad. So I was like, what the hell? What did I do? I mocked his house fire. Alan says, you mean Will Monroe? You mean you? Exactly. I am Will Monroe. I wrote that. Megan says, Easy, I don't think baby Jesus hates anything, but I think he'd prefer listening to Easy. Well, look, when it comes to, like, entertainment, you can say that you hate something. Even baby Jesus, like, if he sees Alex Jones, he's going to say, oh, God, I love Alex Jones because I love everybody, but I hate this show. No, it's okay. Trust me. Anyway, stand by. It says I mocked his house fire. Now, I don't know the context of this. Now, he wrote it like more than once. He kept coming back on that post, and they're all gone now because I think I humiliated him, which is good. You know? I don't know anything about this. I'm sure it did happen, but I would need, like, why? What would cause me to do that? Because a lot of people think that I just go around looking for trouble and just let somebody have it for no particular reason. And that is absolutely not the case at all. I have always waited for people who are the opposition to get sideways. And it's the second they do, you know the policy. They go low, I go lower. I didn't seek this fight out. The fight came to me. And I always win. I've never lost, ever. So I can only imagine what I said. It obviously stuck with Brian here, who looks like he's had a hard life. He's one of those guys, you know, with like mottled skin and looks like he got, you know, mauled by a dog and might only be like 30, but he looks like he's 60. So I thought about it, and I was like, well, how am I going to address this? And then a day passed, and then he kept talking, and I said, all right, I think I figured out what I want to say. So I posted, hi, friends, so thankful for Brian Graff for helping me feel, quote-unquote, normal. Mixed in with the outpouring of love was Brian's comment. Apparently, I, quote, mocked him over his house fire, so I had to investigate further. See below. And so he wrote that, and then underneath it, I wrote this. When he said, he mocked my house fire and can kick rocks, I hope he's sad. I said, hey, Brian, I don't recall the mocking over a house fire. I'm sure it happened, but I need more info for context. Question 1. Did you intentionally start the fire? If you did, see Billy Joel's song. Corny joke, I know, but the question is of him actually starting the fire, suggesting that he may have committed arson, and I made fun of him over that. That's a little bit more of a hokey joke, but I'm probably sobbing when I wrote the joke. Well, now that kind of led to, you're going to get some bounce back, and that's a good thing. You're going to get comments. You're going to get good and bad comments. Bread Bull Brain Chris says, I looked at that dude's picture, and I definitely remember seeing that pic. Same thing. I remember seeing it too. So there must have been some interaction before. Borculo Josh says, was it in the news and you mocked it? No. I guess it's possible, but I don't think so. I don't know how I would have known that guy had a house fire. Maybe it did. Maybe I'd interacted with him on that page and he was in the news because of a house fire. And let's be honest. Most people that are victims of house fires, they're generally losers. Poverty-stricken because they, for whatever reason, drink too much. Maybe they do drugs. Maybe they've been incarcerated. They can't keep a job. Don't have enough money to replace the batteries and the smoke detectors. Definitely don't have a fire extinguisher nearby. Like if you were to go in the annals of the news in your community and look at like the news coverage of all the local fires, typically when homes burn, they're shit. And then you have to add the element of it might be the type of scumbag who sets this place on fire himself. So I don't think I'm saying anything out of school when I say that if anyone is a victim of a house fire, you're probably a huge piece of shit in the first place. So, if they were doing news coverage about, like, my neighbor here, he's got a $700,000 house. If his house burns down, the news should say, all right, authorities are now ruling out arson, and this is obviously not a loser like we normally talk about because he's got a $700,000 house. So there you go. But if you're in one of these hard living areas, and the house is a fucking cardboard box, 4 space heaters and a power strip, pretty good chance the shit could hit the fan. You look at the guy, he's got one eye, barbecue sauce on his T-shirt, 3 different kinds. This is all part of the healing. This is all part of me getting back up to speed. So after I posted that, I then started to feel more comfortable. Chris Barrett, I remember that name. He's been a guy who doesn't like me for some time, but he always responds to my posts. He says, hey, I'm on Brian's side here. And I'm like, well, yeah, me too. Cardboard boxes ignite easily. And then this guy, Jim, actually, Nick says, I saw this. Nicholas David says, I saw this. I was wondering what he said about you first. Exactly. Bob in PA says, didn't light it, but tried to fight it. Those trailer park fires can be quite devastating. Precisely. And then this cat, Jim, I don't know what his deal is. He wrote, wow. Even in the hour of mourning, he's an asshole. Which, if you remember on the post, I said, I'm thankful for Brian for helping me feel normal. Mixed in with the outpouring of love was Brian's comment. Okay? So again, I didn't do it. It came to me. He just can't shut his fucking mouth. I can't wait. And then he wrote, I can't wait until he has no control and response to this. Every time he responds, it justifies his termination. Loudmouth bitch boy. Attack now, easy. You're just predictable. You're that predictable. And I'm like, wait a minute. So you're telling me I can't respond to this? What are you talking about? So I wrote, easy, big fella. No need for hate. It's all in good fun. Which is true. That's good fun. It's good for me. He wrote, proof you can't shut your mouth. And I wrote, well, I like responding to people on Facebook. I'm glad you're here. I have no idea what you're so mad about. And I still don't. Andrew wrote, compassion is free. Everyone's going through shit. People shouldn't be such a douchebag to others. The end. And I'm like, 100%. That's what I'm talking about. Those are the words I live by. And you're like, no, you don't. No, it's true. I'm not going to go up. Okay. Let's say Greg's significant other is mourning after Greg's plane crashes. Am I going to go and say, yeah, you know what? Fuck him. Hell no. Hell no. I would never do that. It's ridiculous to even suggest that. A joyous funeral celebration with dancing pallbearers, different. That's all I'm saying. You're right. You don't. Everybody is going through shit. You kind of cross that line when you take it to that level. But whatever. I can handle that. That's about it. Let's see. Alan R says, when you shit all over everything all the time, sometimes it splashes back on you. Now, I'm not sure if he's talking about me or him. And I can understand why anybody could suggest that what I do is shitting all over everything all the time. That is complete bullshit because I do not do that. And I don't even know if Alan means that. I'm assuming he does. Show of hands in the chat room. Is Alan talking about me with the descriptor, when you shit all over everything all the time, sometimes it splashes back on you? I'm assuming he's talking about me. Couldn't be further from the truth. I do not shit all over everything, nor do I do it all the time. Both of those things aren't true. Occasionally, I will fire off a well-placed joke, which is not shitting all over everything all the time. Farthest thing from that. I am a kind, compassionate soul. So I responded with, actually, I did not respond to that one. Somebody responded for me. Speaking from experience, and Alan said, we've all had diarrhea in our lives. Not all of us make a career of it. Oh, yeah, he's definitely talking about me. Well, all right, I just say scoreboard when it comes down to that. If there's anybody who is suggesting that and can feel compelled on a post about the passing of my father to drop that type of information, that tells me job well done. I am not guy to look at anybody that says something horrible about me after the passing of my father and says, hey, that's out of bounds. You can't say that. First of all, it's impossible to hurt my feelings. Just doesn't work. It's a futile effort. You're wasting your time, energy, and breath. I just don't do it. It actually is wind in my sails, because what that tells me, and has always told me that if at a time like this, just by announcing on my page that my beloved father has passed away, can cause someone on another page to post about it, and people who don't like me are compassionate and kind, that's awesome. And it also means people who are psychopaths will then say something horrible about the passing of my father. Again, whether it's good or bad, what I pull out of someone does not matter. I will always pull something out of someone. Some type of response, positive or negative. I don't care which one. My job is to pull it out of you and make you think, wow, that's an interesting thing to talk about. Because at the end of the day, I'm not here to do anything more than just to provide a little bit of time for you to listen or watch and say, I can handle listening to this. This is fun. So that's it. I'm very, very thankful that what I do for a job has prompted people to do that, good or bad. Tophus, who has a way with words too, he says some people deal with grief differently. Fuck them and their judgy poverty asses. Tophus says if your house is a lean-to and it burns to the ground, you're probably a piece of shit. Donut Dan says most of those people whose houses burn down don't have insurance either. Yeah, if you're a loser whose house burns down, okay, you're the type of dummy who's going to hang on to that for the rest of your life. So you go to order food at Burger King. Hey, welcome to the home of the Whopper. What can I get you? Well, Whopper. And oh, by the way, my house burnt down. Can I have a discount? I will be after noon, period. And what I mean by that is after 12. That is Bert, the process server, who I've become quite chummy with. Bert, the process server, is salt of the earth.